Welcome everyone to the channel. Thank you so much for joining. I am here to talk about the final episode to The Last of Us. Wow, this episode I thought was impactful. I mean, this is the final episode of the season, episode 9. And my first thoughts of this episode is it was a great episode. I've knew parts of the video game, but I did not know anything going into this second half of the season. So this last episode, really caught me off guard. I was just not expecting what I was expecting, but I just thought this is just a phenomenal season. I really don't have words. I mean, it just reminds me a lot of Game of Thrones, where when the season ends, I'm just still expecting so much more, and I just want more because I just loved everything that they did. I know there are some gripes with some folks out there about the series, basically stating that there just wasn't enough action, or there weren't enough clickers, or bloaters. But I think if you're going to do a video game to screen adaptation, whether it's film or television, I think this is the way to do it, because sometimes the action is not what drives the series. It's about the emotional connections. I mean, to me, I think the emotional connections are very important, because sometimes when you get so focused on the action, it doesn't hold up if you're constantly doing action, 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 action. When it really comes to those big parts, what makes the action sequence great is not the action, it's the emotional investment by the time the action comes that makes it so great. And I thought that this series did a phenomenal job, really just giving us the action when the emotional investment had occurred between Joel or Ellie or whoever else was going on in this series. So without that, let me just get into particularly a recap of this episode. So the episode starts off with this pregnant woman that is running through the fields, and you can kind of hear a clicker or somebody in the background, an infected, and she runs into the farmhouse. She's yells for somebody, and then she goes upstairs into a particular bedroom and puts a chair up against the door. But, it really doesn't do any good, because shortly after she puts that chair against the door, this infected person is at the door, clawing at the door, and just knocks the door down, goes after her and attacks her, basically. And I just thought this was all great. I just loved all of this because the action was so intense. I mean, this infected is right in her face. And the thing is that she's pregnant at this time where she's fighting off this zombie or this infected person, and she does kill them. And in the moment after she kills them, she realizes that she's actually giving birth. And she, takes a moment. I think she's shocked about what has happened, but happy about what has happened, but then immediately starts to realize, oh my God. She takes a switchblade knife and cuts the umbilical cord, of course, because she doesn't want what has happened to her affect Ellie. And what has happened to her is that she got bit. And I didn't know that this was not in the game. This was actually something that the directors of this series actually brought to the forefront, because it had been hinted in the game how Ellie was immune, but there was nothing actually out there saying how she was immune. So the directors and the writers and everybody coming up with this idea that Ellie's mom, whose name is Anna, and if you didn't know, which I didn't know at first, but every time I was watching, I kept saying to myself, this woman looks so familiar. Anna actually played Ellie in the video game. She actually played Ellie in the video game. So to come full circle, and now she's actually the mother giving birth to Ellie, I thought was phenomenal. But anyway, to realize that she's been bitten and now she is cutting the umbilical cord, this was a way of showing how Ellie possibly and how she is immune to what's going on. Anyway, I really love this scene. I thought it was phenomenal. Then of course Marlene shows up, and Anna, who is Ellie's mom, immediately tells Marlene she wants two things from her. You got to take Ellie raise her, make sure to take good care of her, and I need you to kill me as well. And Marlene definitely doesn't want to do that. She's got history with Anna, and first she says she can't do it, but then eventually she does take Ellie and tells the person to hold her, cover her ears, which I don't know why the guy didn't. And then she goes in there and actually does what Anna asked, which she does take Ellie, and then she shoots Anna and kills her because Anna doesn't want to become infected by this thing at all. And that's when he immediately flashes to Ellie in the present time, and her hearing is a little faint. Never knew that. I never knew that at all, but from the gunshot, that's clearly why. And you can see that. And I got some notes here. You can see that she's troubled, which is really different because all the way through all of this series, Ellie is the one trying to make Joel more upbeat and try to bring light to the situation. And Joel is the more troubled one. And you see the roles reverse. Joel is now trying to give some life to Ellie, and Ellie is much more troubled now, but you just don't quite know what Ellie is troubled from because you don't know if Ellie is troubled from memories of Riley and what happened with that situation. You don't know if Ellie's troubled because of what just happened to her in the previous episode. I mean, that's a traumatic thing to go through. Or you also don't know if Ellie is troubled because she knows the journey is kind of coming to an end because they're close to where they have to be. You just really don't know, but Joel senses something and he's trying to make the best of it. So basically, Joel and Ellie go through the town, go through the city, and they're starting to do their normal routes. So this is when they're finding their routes to try to get to the high ground, and that's when they're working their way through the high ground, and Ellie sees something and drops a ladder, and she goes over, and there's giraffes. And this is a really great moment because, particularly in this moment, this is when Joel sees the light coming through in Ellie, like her being a kid again, her opening up, laughing. Because this is probably the first time she's ever even seen a giraffe. Because at first she doesn't quite know what to do, but Joel's like, "Look, let's get them some leaves," because he knows giraffes are very friendly. And to see Ellie, give leaves to this giraffe, and this giraffe is just eating it. She just loves all of it. And I gotta say, the effects on this damn giraffe were so good. It's got to be CGI, but it looked so good. I thought it was really a giraffe. I really did. I thought it was really a giraffe, but it was just phenomenal. So moving along, as they're moving past this, they basically just come to the realization, like, maybe things aren't as bad. Like nature is starting to take its course because we see giraffes grazing here. But then there's a realization, like, even though we may think things are better, we still have to be careful because there's some bad things out there. Now you have Joel and Ellie actually starting to become a little more opening up a little bit. So here is when they're walking through the city, and that's when Joel finally tells Ellie the story that he's never told anybody else. And basically, it's the story of how he missed the shot. He shot himself, or he tried to attempt to commit suicide after his daughter Sarah's death. And he flinched. He tells Ellie this, that he doesn't know why he flinched. The mark on his head is actually from him trying to commit suicide after his daughter's death, but he missed. And in this particular situation, I'm going to quote this. Basically, Joel says that the reason I'm telling you this, and then Ellie cuts him off, and Joel says, right when Ellie cuts him off, Ellie then says, "I know why you're telling me this, because time heals all wounds." And then she says, "I guess," and she continues, and that's when Joel cuts her off and replies and says, "It wasn't time that did it." That's a very important scene because that's right there at the moment that Joel is like letting Ellie know, like, look, I know what you're going through, but you have been the one that helped me get through this. And I love you and I care for you, because you really see all the emotions in Joel's eyes and in Ellie's eyes as she realizing, like, this is something really special. He understands what I'm going through, but he's also letting me know that not only does time heal all wounds, people can help you heal. So he's letting Ellie know, like, you're in my life and I'm here with you, and I love you, in a sense of saying that I love you without saying I love you. So pretty much after that, that's when they're walking and they get ambushed by an armored patrol, and actually they get knocked out by a stun grenade. Everything goes white. You don't see anything else. It goes fade to white, and that's when Joel wakes up and Marlene says, "Welcome to the Fireflies." Joel's first question as soon as he wakes up is, "Where's Ellie?" So this is kind of like the Dr. Evil of the situation. And I was talking to somebody earlier and they were saying that this is when villains, for some reason, tell the whole thing of what's going on, which is kind of funny. But, uh, this is when Marlene actually says in the beginning, like, she's good, she's fine. She's quite evasive in the beginning, but that's when Joel keeps pressing her, like, "Where's Ellie?" And that's when she eventually starts telling her that, telling him that, look, we have her in surgery. Um, you know, things are going good. And she tries at this moment to offer words of admiration to Joel, like, "Look, I can't believe you did it. I didn't think you were going to do it, but I'm so appreciative that you got her here. And now that you got her here, we're going to do the work that we need to." Joel doesn't quite understand the work that they need to do. And damn it, if Marlene didn't tell her what it was. So she basically tells her that Ellie's unusual biology truly does make her one of a kind, and they have found out that a cordyceps infection is in the brain, and because the cordyceps infection is in the brain, they actually want to do surgery on Ellie brain, actually go in there and do surgery on her brain, take pieces out of her brain, and actually remove her brain if possible, if they can't do that, and essentially kill her. Joel does not like that whatsoever, and is like, okay, does she have a choice? What is going on here? This is when I was completely shocked out of the whole story. Completely shocked, because the whole time I really thought Marlene was for Ellie. And in a way she is, but she really isn't. She's all about, she never even told Ellie she was going to kill her. And this whole time, Ellie's thinking that they're going to run tests on her to find a cure, not knowing that she's a test tube. Like, she is practically a prospect. She's a scientific project to help humanity. And that's hard to swallow. That's really hard to swallow, even for me. And this is the rub that comes in the series. Like, what would we have done? Because at this point, she tells Joel what's going to happen and that she's going to have surgical procedure. And Joel was like not happy with it. He wants Ellie, and she doesn't want to kill Joel. So at this point, she doesn't kill Joel, but she gives Joel a knife and gets her guards. They're like, "Look, we're just going to give you a pack and this knife, and we're going to take you out to the highway and be done with you." But this is where she really underestimates Joel, because it's at this point that when Joel is being taken away, he's almost out of the building, going down the stairwell, and this is when Joel snaps. Now, this is the Joel that they practically hinted on all season long. All season long. Like, this guy that's relentless. People were scared shitless of Joel. And basically what happens is Joel is not going to lose another person that he loves like he lost Sarah. And he goes ham on everybody in the hospital. I mean, it even gets to the point. I mean, Marlene makes a serious miscalculation here. And Joel is going through the hospital, and he kills everybody in the hospital. When he finally gets to the actual surgical place, there's a doctor that confronts him. He's saying, "Unhook her." The doctor's like, "No, I can't let you do that." Shoots the guy in the middle of the head without even thinking about it. Because in his mind, he does not care what's going on. It's all about Ellie, saving her, because he is choosing Ellie over humanity. And at this point, the only people that lived in this whole situation were two nurses. So as he's leaving, that's when he finally gets confronted with Marlene again. And this is when Marlene approaches him at gunpoint and tries her best to dissuade him. So at this point, he's pretty much trying to tell Joel that even though he's trying to save her, what's he going to do? Like, are you going to try to hold on to her? What are you going to do when she gets older? You can't save her forever. You're going to get old and going to die. Then she's going to be alone. Are you going to try to hold on to her until she gets torn apart by some infected or she gets murdered by raiders? Like, you're risking so much just to try to save her when we're really trying to save humanity. What are you doing, Joel? Joel doesn't want to hear it because at that moment, he literally tells Marlene it doesn't matter, and he shoots her. And after he shoots Marlene, he doesn't kill her, but he shoots her, and he goes in to approach her, and she's like, "No, no, we can talk this out." Blah blah blah. And Joel makes a really good point. He said it doesn't matter because you're just going to continually follow her, and he kills Marlene because at this point, there's no turning back. There's no turning back. He's already killed everybody in the hospital. He shot down the fireflies, and he's like, look, I'm not going to lose Ellie for you guys trying to do surgery on her to save humanity. And as you can see in this photo back here, he is choosing to save Ellie. And Ellie, doesn't know anything about this. At this moment, it cuts. And then you see Joel and Ellie on the road in the car, and this is where the lies begin. So I have some notes here. Right when Ellie wakes up, he tells Ellie that she is not the only one immune to the cordyceps, that there are dozens like her, and that she's trying to figure out what happened. She's like, how did I get these clothes? And that's when he says that raiders attacked the hospital, and he had to rush her to safety. That's when she then asks, did anybody get hurt, and is Marlene okay? Of course, Joel says a lot of people got hurt, and he doesn't answer the question about Marlene. He doesn't answer the question. He just simply says, I had to get you to safety, and we just had to get out of here. He doesn't answer that question, which is very interesting because clearly at that moment you can see Ellie look like she knows Marlene didn't make it. She doesn't quite know what happened, but she knows something's not right because he's lying to her at this point. And it makes you wonder, what decision did Joel make? What would you have done in that situation? Me personally, I would have saved Ellie. I don't know if I could have let someone that I deeply care about die on a hospital surgical table for humanity. But that's the situation that gets talked about so much in this game. Is like, what would you have done? What would you really have done? Would you have tried to save humanity, or would you have tried to save the one you love? It's a really tough question. So then some time passes by, and this is when you notice, and give me a second here. This is when you notice that time passes by because Ellie's now got clothes on, and you see them walking. They're getting closer back to Jackson, and this is when Ellie starts to share the story about her first kill, and she starts to talk about the situation that happened between her and Riley, and that they waited it out, and unfortunately Riley did turn, and Ellie was forced to kill her, which it hurt her deeply because she was forced to kill her best friend and the person that she really loved at the time. And she opens up to Joel about that, and this is when Joel is really using a lot of his influence and try to let her know, like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that Riley had turned. It's not your fault that people are dying around you. He basically lets her know, like, look, he's giving her as many uplifting words as he can to pull her out of that darkness. And right when he's giving her that words, Ellie cuts him off, and I quote, she says, "Swear to me." She says that everything that you said about the Fireflies is true. Swear to me that everything you said about the Fireflies is true. And Joel looks at her and says, it's true, which we know it's not. And Ellie knows it's not because she looks at him, which this is just phenomenal acting, because at this moment she's looking at him. She doesn't say anything. It's in silence, but in her words and in her facial features and her mannerisms, you can see 1,000 thoughts and emotions are going through her head. But she just says, okay, because it's almost like she can't come to bear with the fact that the person that she loves, which is Joel, is actually lying to her about what happened, because she senses that what you're telling me is not the truth. And even though he says it is, she knows it's not, which is going to be very interesting on how this plays out in season 2, because I don't know. I did not play Last of Us Part 2, so I don't know how this is going to pan out when it comes to the game. But one thing I can say is the way that this ended with her just saying okay and it going to black. I was like, oh my God. It just literally stopped on a dime, and it sets up a lot of what's going to happen the next season. And it's very a very good story. And I've heard that this is practically almost beat for beat on how the video game ended. And this video game is 10 years old, and I can totally understand why this was one of the most, if not the most praised video game of all time because of this phenomenal story. The question is, I tell you, what would you have done? A lot of people are saying that they feel that if Ellie did know, she probably would have sacrificed herself anyway. That's what Marlene was trying to tell Joel. Like, I understand you trying to save her, but Ellie would have done this anyway. We don't know. We really don't know. But that's the situation. Would Ellie have sacrificed herself for humanity? Or, what would you have done? Would you had went with humanity, or would you have went with Joel? I don't know. But one thing I can say, this was a phenomenal episode. Phenomenal episode. I absolutely loved it from beginning to end, and I cannot wait for season 2. I can guarantee you, HBO is going to give them one hell of a budget in season 2. And I know a lot of people had issues about there not being enough of the infected. I believe we're going to definitely see some more infected in season 2. Definitely going to see some more infected. But anyway, thank you guys so much. I just had to get all of this out, and I ran a little longer than I hoped for. I was only hoping this to be about 10 minutes, but this episode was just so jam-packed with such good information. And just thank you guys for watching this review, listen to my recap, and listening to my thoughts. Anyway, don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, like the video and subscribe to the channel. It always makes you easier to find me. I'm going to be putting up tons of videos all the time. Thank you so much for watching and watching this last episode of The Last of Us. Cannot wait for season 2. Anyway, my name is Corey Roy. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.